Welcome to Love, Laughter, and Life, the lifestyle podcast for boomers living boldly and unapologetically. I'm Debbie Maxwell, retired nurse. I'm a realtor and a life enthusiast, bringing you real talk and inspiration as we navigate our prime years. We're covering relationships, retirement, downsizing, tech, travel, and simply finding purpose, with humor and with heart, of course. So, pour a cup or a glass and settle in. It's our time to shine. New episodes weekly, so subscribe and join in on the conversation. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Love, Laughter, and Life. This is the podcast where we share stories that spark joy, inspiration, maybe a little reflection along the way. You know, in my first episode, I promised myself I was not going to backtrack. Alas, here I am though doing it, but I couldn't help myself. Sometimes to really understand how far we've come or how we became who we are, we have to take a few steps back and just peek into those moments that shaped us. So today we're doing a little backtracking. When I was in college, nursing was my major. My favorite semester was med-surg, especially the surgical part. I absolutely fell in love with the operating room. The precision, the teamwork, the rhythm of it all. It was like a perfectly choreographed dance. And the busier, the better for me. But when graduation rolled around, I discovered a cold, hard truth. Those who got into the operating room usually stayed there for life. They didn't leave until retirement. And at that time, there wasn't a single OR position open within 100 miles of me. To top it off, there was a hiring freeze for nurses in the state of North Carolina. So there I was, degree in hand, heart full of purpose, and no one hiring. Thankfully, I'd worked a lot during school, double shifts, weekends, and I had built some great relationships along the way. One of my mentors was the nursing supervisor, and she had taken me under her wing for some reason. I guess she saw how hard I worked, and she promised me, "Don't you worry, we will find you a spot when you graduate." And sure enough, she did. The only opening was, however, in neurological intensive care. NICU, as we called it then. Of course, NICU means something entirely different today. It means neonatal ICU. It wasn't my dream job, but it became one of my greatest teachers. I learned patience, focus, and how to balance critical thinking with compassion. There's a quote from Florence Nightingale that has always stayed with me. Let us never consider ourselves finished nurses. We must be learning all of our lives. And that's exactly what those years were. One big lesson in empathy, humility, and grace. And then in 1985, I moved to Charlotte, and that's when everything changed. I accepted a position in a level 1 trauma center emergency room. Talk about reality. What I saw in that ER could fill a book. But I was happy in the ER. That was where I found my groove. Major trauma became my home. It was fast paced, high stakes, and incredibly rewarding. But every time we wheeled a patient to the trauma operating room, that same little voice inside me whispered, "That's where you're meant to be. That's where you're meant to be." One day I was caring for a little boy, a pediatric patient. He was scared to death, and his mom was terrified as well. Now, at the time, protocol was to not allow family members in the major treatment area. But something inside me decided I needed to make an executive decision. She needs to stay. So I let her. We treated her son and got a bed for him in the pediatric ICU. And while I was waiting for another nurse to help me transport him upstairs to the PICU, the mom said quietly, "I've pushed many a gurney in my day. I'm happy to help." Well, that caught my attention, caught me off guard. So I asked, "Really? When was that?" And she smiled and said, "Well, I'm the director of the operating room." Oh my goodness. Inside, I was screaming, "What?" But on the outside, I just smiled and thanked her for sharing that. Later that night, I replayed every second of that encounter in my mind, wondering what I'd missed. But then it hit me. It wasn't my job to know who she was. My job was to take care of her son. And that's exactly what I had done. Well, I had to explain to her about my dream of working in her department, but I knew that nurses never left that department. She laughed and thanked me profusely for taking great care of her son. 2 weeks later, my phone rang. It was her. Debbie, how would you like to come to work in the operating room? Oh my gosh, just like that, my dream had found me. And 2 weeks later, I was standing under those bright OR lights, learning the ropes, living the dream I'd once thought was absolutely impossible. That moment still reminds me of Louis Pasteur's words. Chance favors only the prepared mind. And those long nights, all those double shifts, all that quiet faith, none of it was wasted. When opportunity knocked, I was ready. Working in the OR was everything I'd hoped for and more. The camaraderie, the purpose, the people, and many of those co-workers are still very good friends of mine 30 years later. It was also the season where I met my soon-to-be husband. We got married. I had 2 children while I worked in there. I was working in trauma orthopedic surgery, and I absolutely loved it. It was the adrenaline rush that I loved. Looking back, that whole journey taught me something powerful. Sometimes the detours are the real destination. Had I gone straight into the operating room right out of school, I may never have learned the depth of compassion that ICU and emergency room nursing had taught me. And I may never have met that mom, the one who became the bridge to my dream. Thomas Edison once said, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and it looks like work. And he was right. My story wasn't luck. It was years of showing up, doing my best, and staying open to what life had in store for me. There's another quote I love sharing, not just with younger nurses, but really anyone. When you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, remember, it's because you are the light. So if you're listening today and you're waiting for that next big thing, that opportunity, that open door, that new chapter, trust me, your story isn't standing still. It's unfolding in ways you can't see yet. Every setback, every shift, every small act of faith, it's all shaping something extraordinary. I like to imagine some young nurse standing in a bright hallway right now, wondering what's next, feeling a little stuck or unseen. And maybe, just maybe, her director of OR moment is right around the corner. Because the best things in life don't always happen when we plan them. They happen when we show up with heart and let purpose steer the wheel. I'll leave you with this quote by Aisha Tyson. Your journey has molded you for the greater good, and it was exactly what it needed to be. Don't think you've lost time. It took every situation you've encountered to bring you to the now. And now is right on time. So, yes, maybe this is backtracking, but sometimes looking back helps us see that every step, every pivot, every patient, every customer, every client, every prayer wasn't a detour at all. It was preparation for this very moment. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Love, Laughter, and Life. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who might need a little encouragement today. Until next time, keep shining, keep laughing, and keep living your best life, because this isn't the end of the road. It's your prime time.